Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time,
Yeah.
we're looking at a story that might just be like the ultimate second chance story in crypto.
Mm.
We've got former FTX employees who launched this company, Backpack Exchange, and then they acquire, get this, the European arm of FTX, FTX EU.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild story. Definitely a bold move, especially when you consider that Backpack. They got FTX EU for just $32.7 million.
Yeah.
We think about it, FTX. They paid $323 million for the same thing back in 2021.
Wow, talk about a discount. I mean, I guess that's what happens when a company like,
Yeah.
implodes like FTX did.
Right.
I mean, assets lose value. People get
Yeah, right.
scared.
For sure. I mean, it does kind of make you wonder, like, is Backpack getting a steal here? Or are they taking on something that's maybe more trouble than it's worth?
Yeah.
There's definitely some baggage that comes with that FTX name.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And FTX EU itself has had quite a journey.
Yeah.
It started as a Swiss company, I think, called Digital Assets AG. Then it got bought by FTX, then went through that whole collapse thing.
Yeah.
And now it's being sold back to its founders,
Yeah.
who are now starting Backpack. I mean, it's like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It really is.
And let's not forget about Backpack's own start. I mean, they got $20 million initially from, you guessed it, FTX and Jump Crypto. But then, FTX goes under and Backpack ends up losing like a crazy amount, $14.5 million, which is almost 90% of their operating funds.
Okay, so losing that much money, I mean,
Yeah.
that would cripple most startups. How do they even survive that, let alone end up buying FTX EU?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely raises some questions about their risk management for sure. Like, were they just way too reliant on FTX? Did they not see the warning signs? But, I mean, on their hand, the fact they are still around, I mean, that shows some serious resilience. They must see a real opportunity here.
So what is Backpack's plan with this acquisition? Are they trying to just like recreate FTX? But in Europe this time.
Well, they definitely want to make a splash in the European Union, that's for sure. They're planning to offer a whole range of crypto derivatives, including these things called perpetual futures.
Perpetual futures,
Yeah.
okay. I'm going to be honest. That sounds kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for me? And for anyone listening who might not be familiar with them.
Yeah. So imagine you're betting on the price of Bitcoin,
Right.
like whether it's going to go up or down. But instead of buying or selling the actual Bitcoin, you're basically entering into a contract that doesn't have an expiry date. That's the perpetual part.
Okay. So it's like a really long-term bet on the price of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But you don't actually own it.
Right. Exactly. And these contracts, you can use leverage with them, which basically means you can amplify your gains or your losses. It's a pretty high risk, high reward kind of thing. So
It sounds a lot like something that FTX was really into. So I
Yeah.
could see why people might be
yeah.
a little bit skeptical of Backpack's plans here.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. It's definitely a move that's going to raise some eyebrows, especially given FTX's history. But Backpack is also taking on a pretty big responsibility here.
Okay.
They're going to be in charge of distributing funds to all the former FTX EU customers
Yeah.
as part of that court-approved bankruptcy plan.
So they're not just trying to build a business. They're also trying to kind of clean up FTX's mess.
Yeah. It's a huge task. And honestly, it's something that's really important for the whole crypto industry, like rebuilding that trust. Backpack's CEO, Armani Ferrante, he's been pretty vocal about their commitment to transparency and getting those funds back to people quickly and safely.
Which brings us to another important player in this story, SEC, the Cyprus Securities and Exchange Commission. I understand they've been keeping a pretty close eye on FTX EU.
Oh, yeah. They definitely have, in fact. They actually extended the suspension of FTX EU's services for another 6 months, which might sound kind of bad, like a setback.
Yeah.
But it's actually a pretty strategic move. It gives them time to process transactions, get funds back to those existing clients, and just make sure that everything is done properly.
So it's kind of like a timeout while they sort everything out under the watchful eye of the regulator.
Yeah.
Which I can see how that could be a good thing. For trust.
Yeah. Especially given all the shady stuff that went down with FTX, it definitely sends a signal that they're serious about protecting investors and, making sure that European crypto market is stable.
Yeah. Okay. So SEC is kind of playing referee here, making sure everything's above board.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what happens after this 6-month suspension? What's the timeline look like for Backpack and FTX EU?
Well, the plan is to get FTX EU's operating license back up and running and then relaunch services in the first quarter of 2025. Backpack has said, they'll give regular updates through their support channels about like asset access and new user onboarding and stuff.
That makes sense. You got to keep people in the loop,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with something like this, bankruptcy, return of customer funds, all very sensitive stuff. But launching in 2025, That seems like a long way off. What are they going to be doing in the meantime?
Well, one thing they have is experience. You know, Tristan Ever, he's one of Backpack's co-founders. Well, he actually worked at FTX for 2 years before he left back in May 2022.
Oh, wow. So he has like insider knowledge of how FTX operated, both the good and the bad. I imagine that could be super valuable as they try to rebuild and, rebrand.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, understanding FTX's systems and their processes, that's going to be really important, especially when it comes to things like security and, making sure they're following all the regulations. But beyond that, I mean, he also has insight into like the culture there, and the decision-making processes. That led to FTX's downfall. So hopefully he can use that knowledge to help Backpack, avoid those same mistakes.
So it's also they're getting like a front row seat to like the autopsy of FTX, They can see firsthand what went wrong.
Yeah.
And then try to build something better.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I mean, they have this really unique opportunity to learn from the mistakes of the past and build a platform that's more robust, more transparent, and more focused on the customer.
But let's face it, it's not going to be easy. Yeah. I mean, they're facing a ton of challenges here. First, they need to win back the trust of those customers who got burned by FTX. Then they've got to deal with all these European regulations with CyACC right there watching their every move. And on top of that, they have to compete with other companies who are already established in the market.
Yeah, you're right. Those are all huge challenges. Rebuilding trust is going to be absolutely essential. I mean, actions speak louder than words. They need to be completely transparent about everything they do.
So what does that look like in practice? What can they actually do to show people that they're not just FTX 2.0?
Well, for one thing, they need to be super upfront about how they're handling those customer funds. Like being clear about the process, giving regular updates, and making sure it's all streamlined. And then they also need to show they're serious about security. So that means investing in the right systems, implementing those best practices, and getting regular audits by reputable third parties.
So it sounds like they need to really go above and beyond just to prove they're trustworthy. And then there's the whole regulatory thing, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, operating under CyACC, that means they have to be super careful about compliance. So things like anti-money laundering, and know your customer procedures, and making sure they have enough risk management and capital reserves in place.
So it's a lot to handle. And they can't forget about the competition either. I mean, the European crypto market is pretty crowded these days.
It is.
How can they actually stand out and attract users?
That's where innovation comes in. I mean, they can't just copy what FTX did. They need to offer something new, whether that's a new product or a platform that's easier to use, or maybe a different way of handling customer service. But they also need to be clear about their values and what makes them different.
So it's this balancing act. They need to be reliable, trustworthy, but also innovative, cutting edge. And they have to do all of this while CyACC is watching them.
It's a tough situation.
It's like a high-stakes game.
It is.
And there's not much room for error.
Definitely not.
But if they can pull it off, the rewards could be massive.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the European Union is a huge market.
It is.
And more people are getting interested in crypto.
Absolutely.
So it's a classic underdog story. But with this extra twist of trying to rebuild after this huge collapse, I'm curious, do you think they can actually succeed where FTX failed?
That's the million-dollar question. It really is. I mean, it's impossible to say for sure. There are so many things that could happen. Yeah, it really is a make-or-break kind of situation for them.
And for the whole crypto industry too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, if Backpack succeeds, this could be huge for crypto, Like, it could help restore some of that trust that was lost when FTX went down. But if they fail, well, it could make things even worse for crypto's reputation. And it could make regulators even more hesitant to, embrace it.
So what should we be looking out for as this story unfolds? What are the signs that Backpack is either on the right track or heading for trouble?
Well, first of all, keep an eye on that customer fund distribution. Like, how smoothly does that process go? Are they being open about any issues or delays? That's going to be a big test for them.
Okay, so transparency is key. What else?
Watch their relationship with CyACC. Are they meeting all the regulatory requirements? Are there any signs of conflict? Remember, CyACC has a reputation for being pretty tough. So Backpack needs to be able to navigate that relationship if they want to succeed.
Got it. Regulatory compliance is crucial.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, don't just focus on the compliance stuff, though. Look at what they're actually offering, like their products and their overall strategy. Are they doing anything new and innovative, or are they just rehashing what FTX did, but with a different name?
So we need to see if they're actually moving the industry forward, not just trying to make a quick buck.
Exactly. And remember, Backpack's success isn't just about them. It's about the whole crypto industry. Can it learn from its mistakes and build a more sustainable future? Or is it just going to keep repeating the same old cycles of boom and bust, hype and disappointment?
It's a lot to think about. This one company, Backpack, is kind of carrying the weight of the whole crypto world on its shoulders.
I know. It's crazy, right? And that's what makes this story so interesting. It's not just about business. It's about trust and resilience and the future of a technology that could change everything.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave our listeners with a final thought. Imagine you're a former FTX EU customer. You lost money when FTX collapsed, and now you're waiting for Backpack to give you your funds back. What are you hoping for? What are you worried about? What would it take for you to trust Backpack, and maybe even the whole crypto industry again? That's something to think about as we continue to explore this ever-changing world of crypto and blockchain technology. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.